We've got updates for the new Blockade Runner missions and it looks amazing. CIG shared their full cargo vision with us, as well as new cargo hauling missions update. All that and more in today's video. Starting off, this week's Star Citizen Live was pre-recorded and they were answering questions from the community regarding the new cargo hauling missions that are being introduced in Alpha 3.24, as well as talking about the whole vision for what CIG sees the future of cargo and the economy in Star Citizen looking like. So starting off with cargo hauling missions. The size of the box that you haul is dependent on the grade of the mission, which is designed based on a specific ship in mind. What they mean by that is that you're not going to be able to pick the size of the cargo that you're going to haul. Instead, what they're going to do is, depending on the grade of the mission, you'll be getting a specific sized boxes or commodities, and these missions are designed around a specific ship. So the ideal ship size for a particular mission will be based on the amount and size of cargo. However, players can choose to use any ship they want, even if it's not the ideal size. You can run the cargo mission, the same mission, multiple times going back and forth if you have a smaller ship than the ideal sized ship specifically made around the mission. I hope this makes sense. Players cannot currently pick the size of the cargo boxes that they will be hauling, however they want to change that in the future. These cargo hauling missions are also tied in with the same reputation system that is in the game. The reward for these hauling missions, as we talked before, is dictated by the EVR algorithm, which I've talked about before. The reward will be appropriate to the amount of time it takes to load the ship and how dangerous the mission is. They said also that it is possible to chain multiple small hauling missions together if you have, let's say, a large ship. So you can pick up multiple hauling missions and put all of the cargo for all the 3 missions in your large ship, if you have a SC2 for example. There was also a question about what types of commodities will be hauled. So for example, now we have raw materials. Well, what about food? What about livestock? What about other types of commodities? They currently said that it will not be in 3.24. However, this is the future vision for different types of commodities and data running in the game. However, data running is its own beast and they didn't speak much about it, but they said that if you have certain food that you need to transport, you need to change the temperature in order for it to not rot, for example. If you're trading livestock, you need to feed the space cows and you need to give them the breathing atmosphere like oxygen and nitrogen and things like that. So this is their vision for what the types of commodities and cargo is going to play out in the future. They also talked about the dynamic economy. So they addressed that even though these missions that they're currently doing is done manually, it is in the hopes that while they gather data building these missions manually, it will inevitably be generated dynamically by supply and demand. And this goes into the player-driven economy. So they talked about how in the future there will be missions where player can use their own commodities or commodities that they have found to complete the hauling missions. In addition, they can launch their own missions, so players can trade with each other if they, let's say, they're producing specific commodity in their base or whatever. They will be able to sell it and have a beacon set for, selling this specific commodity. They said that they will build upon the original system that we have currently, which is the beacon system, and they talked about how they know that the current state of the beacon system is really flawed and not in any way, shape, or form meant to be the final version. However, it is their intent to build upon it, and it will be how players trade with one another and how the player economy will dictate the dynamic economy. And the dynamic economy in Star Citizen, which was named Quantum, but now they're calling it Star Sim, which I think is much more appropriate and understandable that way. It will feed into each other. So whatever player produces commodities, sell commodities, trade with each other, this will affect the dynamic economy and will affect what missions appear when, where, based on supply and demand. And this is their vision for what cargo hauling and the economy for Star Citizen looking like. They've also talked about how cargo hauling missions are different from the normal courier missions that we're used to. So the small boxes missions versus the hauling missions. So hauling missions are meant for the large hauls from system to system, planet to planet. But the courier missions are smaller missions that is meant for specific smaller amount of commodities to be transported. They also talked about their vision on why missions even exist and what their purpose are. So they said that missions in the game are a way to introduce players to more emergent aspect of the world. They give a player a chance to learn how the world works and give them a taste of different gameplay loops. For example, by taking cargo hauling missions, player will learn about the different commodities that are traded between locations and the risks and rewards of transporting cargo. In the future, there will be more missions that allow players to acquire their own cargo, such as mining missions and salvage missions. This will allow players to take even more ownership over their gameplay experience. And this also means that you don't necessarily have to take a mission in order to participate in playing the game. You can do it on your own if you have your own commodities, and if you understand the world and understand the economy, what to sell and where, you'll be able to emergently play on your own. They also talked about, are there going to be missions where we have to transport goods via vehicles? And they said they would like to, but it's not currently in their priorities. However, it is still debated on where exactly would you have a mission that you need to transport the goods via vehicles, because a lot of people would say, well, like, it's more efficient and faster and better to use a spaceship rather than a vehicle. They were asked about missions in landing zones, and they said yes, it is the plan to have missions within landing zones. They addressed the elephant in the room because the performance in landing zones are atrocious. So currently they're not planning on adding any missions to the landing zone, but in the future, if the performance is better, they will add missions to landing zones. One thing that they added on the effort versus reward talk is that how is it being calculated? What actually is contributing to the time that it takes for you to do the mission? So they said that in the real world, if you do cargo hauling, then you're only paid when you're at the location waiting for the cargo to load and then delivering the cargo. You're not charged on, getting food or walking to the place that you're going to load the cargo from, and any external time taken away from the mission itself. So they talked about the MMO aspect of Star Citizen and how one person asked, doesn't lower paying missions cause grinding in the game? They said they want an MMO. By that they mean that they want years of Star Citizen, not just 40 hours and you get your 890 jump and then that's it. You're not gonna play Star Citizen again. So that's their view on grinding, and they see it as you feel more connected to the items and the things that you put a lot of effort into getting. Suddenly they have a lot more value. Now, they also address the elephant in the room, wipes. I could spend all this time grinding and getting my perfect chip only to have a wipe in the game, and then all of my effort disappears. That is the worst feeling ever. They are aware of it, and they say that wipes are not desirable at all, and they are doing everything they can to never wipe again. However, they will only wipe once it's the very last resort that they have to do if the data is corrupted or there is no way that they can continue the game without wiping. They also talked about security. What if you are trading or loading and unloading your ship at an outpost somewhere that is outside a green zone? This is your own security risk that you have to take, and it is calculated into the EVR system. So if you are in a green zone, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you are outside a green zone, then you either have to protect yourself or have a friend to protect you. They also said that legally, if someone, let's say you opened the cargo freight elevator and someone else came and took your cargo, which is labeled as yours in the mission contract, they will get a crime stat for taking your cargo, and then you can take whatever action you want against them and you will not be legally charged. They also went a little bit more on the vision for the law system. So if there was a lot of activity, player driven or NPC driven, there will be a security response in that area. So depending on the player's action, all the players' action in a specific area, security personnel might be deployed in a specific place. They also talked about what does freight elevators mean for the future of missions as a whole. And they said that it opens up a lot of opportunity. You can go to the freight elevator to haul vehicles. Maybe you can have parts for the repair system in order to repair a ship, now that you can retrieve specific parts. And really the possibilities of retrieving any item for any kind of gameplay or mission is now possible using the freight elevators. So it opens up a lot of doors. So in summary, there will be gathering missions that you have to collect or mine specific raw materials and then haul it or deliver it to the distribution center and specific outposts. From then, cargo hauling missions and courier missions will be dynamically generated based on the inventory that distribution center has, and you'll have a dynamically generated mission to deliver these commodities to a specific station, another planet, another system, etc. And all of this is tied into the dynamic economy that is both player driven and NPC driven. Well, you can also transport many different types of commodities such as livestock, which you have to take care of them, feed them, give them the atmosphere that they need to breathe. You can transport food and specific commodities that needs to be transported in a specific temperature. With that said, they've talked about a lot of important information, and for me personally, now I have a clearer idea of what direction they want the game to go in, and I personally like it. I'm not a fan of grinding, however, it makes sense that for something that's very expensive, it's also very hard to get. I don't want it to be extremely grindy that even a Pisces or a freelancer or like a small ship or something that is supposedly not that big of a deal, I don't want that to have to consume a lot of grinding for me to get it. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with what CIG said about how they want the game to go, or do you have any different suggestions? Or do you not like the direction that the game is going? Let me know in the comments below. So in the new Blockade Runner missions, you will be protecting a space station from a pirate attack. These pirates have taken some cargo from the station and is now fleeing. Your job is to collect the cargo that they have stolen back to the station. Some people will go and get the cargo from the NPCs, which I think the NPCs could also be a Hull C. This will be my first time seeing a Hull C NPC. So you disable the ship, or you risk destroying the ship but gaining a little bit amount of cargo from it. So you have those two options. Once you get these commodities, you'll go back to the station and you'll sell them in the new freight elevators. The way you disable the ships are by using distortion weapons. The way you get awarded for this mission is by contributing to the mission. You'll see a bar increasing, and when it fills out you get a bonus amount, and also when you finish the mission you'll get the larger sum. With this mission, I think people are going to be on both sides of the law. I'm expecting some PvP to go around in this mission as well. And then they talked about the cargo hauling updates. They also pointed out another difference between the courier missions that we had before and the cargo hauling missions. So in these missions, the cargo that you're actually transferring has actual value, meaning you can steal it and sell it elsewhere and it will sell. It has value and it can be stolen as well. So that's another difference between it and the normal missions that we had before. So these were the updates for this week's Star Citizen news. There's also a free fly event running right now and it'll end on the 19th. So if you're interested in playing Star Citizen, I'll leave my referral code in the description below, and let me know what you guys think about these updates. Do you like the cargo hauling missions? Do you think the loading times are ridiculous? And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.